Hey guys, Andy back from Mediocre Hobbies, bringing you the third installment of the new Necromunda Ash Wastes playlist. So this playlist is all about you getting that box set painted up quickly and efficiently so you can get all those miniatures on the table and get started into the new version of Necromunda. Today's video is going to focus on the new Dustback Helamites. These are the mounted version of the new Nomads. These are super cool miniatures, and these are the second thing I was most excited about doing in the box set. Number one is of course that beautiful scenery, but I was nearly as excited to paint up these Helamites. I think I did a pretty good job. I think you guys will be able to watch this video and be able to do a pretty good job yourself at home. So stick around to the end of the video and enjoy. Okay, like most of my projects, we started with a Chaos Black spray and then we did a zenithal of Grey Seer, which left us with this lovely colour to work over with contrast. I started with Snakebite Leather. I actually had to go through a bunch of my different browns, put them all in a palette and see which tone kind of best matched the fleas that were in the artwork. And eventually I settled on Snakebite Leather as the best starting point for the colour that they are on the boxes and in the artwork. So I went for an all over base coat of Snakebite Leather and any part of this miniature that was the Flea. The only thing that got left out was the big metal protruding things coming out of his back, which is holding his like air tanks or moisture tanks or whatever. Other than that, the entire thing got a nice coat of Snakebite Leather. Applying it quite thickly, but then making sure it doesn't pool and cleaning it off as you saw I just did there. Until you get this really nice, almost tea stained looking bug flea. I still think the concept of the dune guys rolling around on top of giant fleas is very cool. Just kind of gives you a hint of the madness of the ash waste is going to be. Next we jump over to a bit of Aggaros Dunes, and this is just for some of the smaller details on the back pieces. Depending on which parts you build the flea with, some of the fleas don't even have these details on the back, so some of them will, 2 of them will, and 2 of them won't out of the box of 4 that you get. So I just did a quick coat of Aggaros Dunes on all of the bandage parts of the miniature, or the bandage parts on the his stowage, all the bandages and wraps and stuff like that on the actual flea. We look to near the end of the paint job. Next we jump over to Leadbelcher, and this is for the rest of the stowage stuff that's on his back. That big spider is actually metal. And all of the little in-between bits are going to be painted in Leadbelcher first, and then we'll pick out the 1 or 2 parts that are actually a copper with Balthasar Gold in a minute. But for now, just very carefully go around all of the metal strut parts with a nice coat of Leadbelcher. Actually I am quite a big fan of these particular miniatures. I was looking forward to getting my hands on them the second I seen them in reveals a couple of weeks ago. So I'm delighted to actually be getting them under my paintbrush. And then, like I said, Balthasar Gold, just for the big air tanks or moisture tanks. I'm not 100% sure still. I haven't looked it up even since the last video as to what exactly are in the tanks of the Nomads. Is it water or is it like oxygen style thing? But yeah, quick coat, nothing fancy. And then once that's applied in my head, the entire flea has its rough base coats on, and we'll go on to an all over wash, just to shift the tone a little bit to once again more towards that nice tea stain color, and also to protect the contrast that we've applied so far. So nice coat of Seraphim Sepia all over the miniature now, including the stowage spire thing on the back. And this will take a little while to dry, so while it's drying, I'm going to work away on the base of the miniature, so that when I go into the layering process, basically I'm finishing the miniature off instead of finishing the miniature off and then having to base it, which I always find quite annoying. But yeah, a lot of people have asked for how I do the basing scheme, so I will be doing a video on how to do that later in the week. Okay guys, while we wait for the shade to dry and we get that miniature based up in the ash waste basing scheme that I have devised, which in the last video many people commented that I would like a video on how to do those basing schemes, so I will be doing one of them later in the week. I'm posting them for you guys so you can do the same. If you are enjoying this video, make sure you drop a like below. If you have any other questions on this video or any other video, make sure you use the comments. And the algorithm tells me that only about 20% of the people who watch my videos are subscribed. It would mean so much to me and the success of the 365 project if you could hit that little subscribe button for me and join the community. Thank you guys so much for watching, and let's get back to painting. Okay, and after everything has dried and the base has been applied, this is where we are left with. Now at this stage of the miniature, I know it doesn't look fantastic, but trust the process. I just followed through, and I promise you, you will be pleased with the result at the end. So we jumped over to a Steel Legion Drab, and this is to start bringing back up some of the color into the Fleas or the Helamites, carapace armor stuff. So we're going to go for a nice dry brush all over the Flea. You don't want to go too heavy because you don't want to cover up all of those nice brown shades in all the recesses, but you do want to basically get a nice smooth coat across the majority of the miniature. Show you the kind of levels we're looking for on this upper arm part here. As you can see, we're by no means covering up the entire thing, but it is definitely shifting the color more towards a desert mite. This does look a little lifeless when it's done. So what I did then is go on to, for the final dry brush on the Helmite, we go in with an XV88 base paint. And this is a very similar kind of color, but it's got a lot of warmth to it, which once again makes it feel like a living creature again, instead of just kind of a lump of old dried husk. Definitely as an alive flea hopping and bounding its way across the ash wastes. As you can see, that warm color is already a lot nicer than the colder Steel Legion Drab underneath. Have to be super careful with this stage not to go too heavy. And when all of that's applied, you're left with a color that looks like this. And I think this is pretty close to the box art and the actual artwork that's shown in the books. And I was pleased with this, and I was happy to crack on and do all of the other details on the miniature. So the first thing we're going to do is pull up all of the metallics and tidy it up around the Flea, particularly because that's where the dry brushing would have hit a lot of the metallics. So I just want to relayer that up. Get rid of any of the browns off of it, but still leave that nice rich sepia color in all the nooks and crannies to make it feel like a worn old saddle. These guys by no means manufacture beautiful new equipment or gear on a regular basis. These saddles are probably multi-generational, handed down from father to son and so on and so forth. So you definitely don't want them looking completely new and pristine. Old and bashed is kind of what we're going for. Next thing I'm going to do is go into the Rakarth Flesh, and this is for all the other bandages and stuff that I said we didn't bother doing on the Flea, as all the dry brushing just would have ruined it. So we're going to go in and basically layer up any of the bandages and straps, and like the, I'm trying to say a tassel there, but that's not the right word, the reins, sorry, there it is, wrapping around the Flea, and we're going to use Rakarth Flesh for a nice base coat of that. This ended up looking a little too bright for my liking, so we did go down and give it a really light sepia wash in a few minutes, just to tie it back down into all the kind of earthly tones that this miniature was. There are all the straps done, and as you can see, they just jump a little bit too much off the miniature. My brain realizes this after the black step, and then I correct it. So the Abaddon Black is used to paint in the bug's eyes. So nice tidy black solid coat on his big buggy eyes. It's always a lot of fun to do. I mean, they did some crazy detail on the website with theirs. It almost makes it look like they have kind of pupils and eyelids inside the black dome. They did incredible work, which is of course the Envy Metal team's job. And we're going for a little bit more of a simple technique to get ours done. So start off with the all over black coat. Now onto those bandages, like I said, we're going to do a really thin sepia wash on all those bandages just to knock them down again and not be so pristine and clean. Can you imagine a white bandage in a desert? I don't think it would stay white for very long at all. I'm going to emphasize the thin coat of sepia again. We're not trying to have a big thick blob over it. We're just trying to basically tint or glaze the color of the bandages and reins, not entirely shade them. Which I'm sure would be easier to show you guys if I could keep the model in frame of the camera instead of painting just slightly off camera, which I can only imagine is super irritating for people following along. I think that looks much nicer than the bright Rakarth Flesh coat that was on it before. Next, we're going to move over to Ard coat. And this is going to be the last step we do on the bug. And this is just a coat over the eyes to give it that kind of wet, glistening look, which makes it look, once again, much more like a bug eye and not just a flat black coat like the rim of the base is, for instance. This gives it that wet look. If you wanted to, you could do the entire Flea carapace in the Ard coat and make it a shiny bug, but that's up to you. Here is the Nomad that goes on the back of the Flea. I didn't paint this up in this video, and if you would like to know how I paint up the Nomads, there'll be a link in the description or in the top of the screen now, which will take you to the first part of the video, which is the rider. So this is how the two miniatures get put together, and this is the final result. I hope you guys are delighted with the tutorial. I hope you guys can now comfortably go away and get your Dustback Helamites painted up from your new Necromunda set and get some games of Ash Wastes in lickety quick. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.